Hi, Mark. It's really nice meeting you and chatting with you. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to talk to me.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I heard that you are a supporter of B-Side NYC since its inception. So can you share a bit about why you've been supporting B-Sides NYC and what brings you back?
Sure. Yeah. I've been in New York for 22 years. I moved to New York from London, obviously with my strange accent. So New York has really sort of become my home, and the B-Sides, I think it just encapsulates, an actual security event in New York, right? So this is home territory. Let's have a conference, and that's really what brought me to it, right? So having been around other B-Sides and other places, going to one in San Francisco, going to one in Vegas, doing one in Rochester actually, and just
Nice.
when it came to New York, it was like we have to support the one in New York. So that's it really. It's just it's home territory. I want it to succeed. I like that it's busy this year. So whatever we can do to help it, we're going to keep doing.
Wonderful. I think we had a lot of people come in from different parts of the country and the world. We had international representation as well, so that's amazing. Those are all great additions to our community here
Yeah,
in
that's-
New York City.
Yeah, it's great. It seems to be bigger this year than it was 2 years ago now. So it's cool.
Wonderful.
Hopefully we have lots more.
Yes, absolutely. What are you most excited for? Like, what's a thing that you're looking forward to listening today or attending a workshop? What are you most excited about today?
Well, I just came from the Terraform talk about exploitation in Terraform, which actually is something I know absolutely nothing about,
Okay.
other than talking to guys on my team who use Terraform. All right, let me go find out. So that's really good. There's a talk on S bombs, which I want to go to because it's this pet peeve of mine because I really hate the whole concept.
Oh.
So I'm tempted to go to that just to heckle, which I probably won't do. Yeah. So beyond that, I'm just always looking to find things that are interesting. There was the Kubernetes one earlier that I got into for a little bit, but then I had to get out to take a call. And then there is one on Russia and China, the chess one that I may swing by as well. So I think just again it's good to find talks on things you don't know about, right? And so whatever I can do there, even though in my current job I don't really do a lot of technical stuff anymore, it seems, I still like to keep this hope going that I still will be somewhat technical in 20 years' time. So that's what I'm trying to achieve.
Wonderful. I love that enthusiasm to continue to be technical. That's
It's a try.
fantastic. And I'd like to hear a little more about your background. I know that you're at OccamSec. In fact, you're the founder of OccamSec. So could you please talk to us about what it takes to start a company, how does funding work, what it means to be successful and continue to drive a company forward? I think all of these things are huge tasks, and I, for one, am very interested in learning more about that.
Okay. Well, I started out in security in 1984, thanks to watching war games. So I'm not going to rehash that because I think I've rehashed that like 1,000 times so far. So OccamSec began 12 years ago, and on the subject of funding, we actually had no funding. So OccamSec
Wow.
was, let's go and start a company. I guess I will go. I had some cash, and I had a little bit of help there, but no actual let's go and raise a round of funding.
Okay.
So then what happens is you just hustle endlessly, right? So your job is to wake up, find a way to get someone to hire you to do this thing that you like doing. The first thing I found in this really unfortunate way was if you work in a large corporation. So I was working for an investment bank.
Okay.
So I had lots of friends who worked in banking. So I'll start a company. You're going to hire me. Yeah, sure. We love you. Great. Start a company. No, we can't hire you because you can't get through the procurement process. You're a one-person shop. This is never going to work. So I spent the first 6 months just chasing everything there was to chase, right? And doing little jobs here and there.
Okay.
And then I got to a point where I had no money, basically. And I had no money. And in a week, I got offered a job with a hotel company to be a senior security architect. And I got offered a contract, a 3-month contract.
Okay.
And I was sitting there. I was talking to my wife, and I was like, okay, which one do I do? It's like, well, which one do you want to do? Because the job is a job, and the contract's so I did the contract because I'm an idiot, and just take a risk, right? So I did that, and then it kind of snowballed from there. So you just kind of, you have to just keep pursuing, right? I mean, I was talking to someone outside about, what it is to start a company and run a company. And it really comes down to, and this is, you can hear this elsewhere from others. It's just hustle, right? You always have to be doing stuff, right? So your friends will be at parties on a Friday and you will be doing work. Your friends will be playing sports on a Saturday and you're doing work, right? You have to be working all the time. And what's interesting in our space is you can't rest on your laurels, right? So if you were
That's
really
true.
good at security 5 years ago,
Yes,
no one cares now, right?
that's true.
I mean, when I started, the cloud was just clouds in the sky. That was the reference to the clouds, right? And then so it's changing so much. So there's this requirement to keep learning and to keep executing, doing, and to keep trying to sell, right? And then the other really important thing besides just hustling is to find really good people to work with. So the first year and a half was just me.
Okay.
Then I found my first employee, who's still my first employee. He's in Texas. And then you just sort of grow, right? So you get enough work to max out who you've got, and then you find someone else, and you find someone else, and that's just what happens, right? And you network, and you make friends, and you make a lot of mistakes, like you go to lots of networking events. They're all a waste of time because everyone at the networking event is also there to try and sell work,
For
right?
the same purpose.
Right. So the
Yeah.
whole thing is like, why am I here? And so, yeah, I mean, and you just grows. And I think I've been really lucky in the way that OccamSec has grown. I've managed to find really good people. And we have a really good culture, which has created a really good sort of team spirit, right? So we find good people, we keep good people, we do interesting work. We actually completed an initial round of funding finally because we built a software platform, this incentive platform that we pushed out. We built that and it's like, okay, we're going to need to expedite this because of all the great things we want to do. So then we actually did our first round of funding, which we completed last August. So until then, it was just entirely organically grown, right?
Nice.
We just grew it, we bootstrapped it and all that, and every other term that gets used. So it's fun. I mean, I think where I'm lucky is I still like security, right? So I'm still interested in security. I still have a passion for security, right? I still do technical stuff. I still break stuff. I still make my son's time of going online a nightmare with security control, so he can do nothing. If he ever hears this, he'll agree because we had to talk about it the other day. So I think that doing this thing you like makes it easier, right? Because I think to be effective at running a security company, the people you work with have to believe that you're really in it with them, right? And if you just kind of become this detached CEO who kind of throws grenades at them, it just won't work, right? So
Everybody needs to be bought in.
yeah, and I mean, and I think that there was a perception for a long time that you just needed to get funding, build your company up quickly, and sell it. I think that the last 6 months have proven that is a terrible idea from an economic sense, right? Just look at the last 3 months in banking, right? So I think that we are sort of reverting back to a time where if you make a company, it has to actually be successful, right? It can't be that I'm going to run at a loss for 10 years and maybe make some cash, right? That worked for a little while. I mean, it worked for a long time, right? It's how we got Amazon and Facebook and all these companies, right?
Yeah.
But in this day and age, it's really become a lot tighter, right? The economy is slower. People have less money in general, right? So I think that you have to sort of go back to basics, right?
And it's all about that value creation and value proposition, right? It's really going back to the basics, as you said. And you touched upon a lot of interesting points there as to how your back was against the wall and you still were motivated because you were interested in what you were doing. I don't think a lot of us can muster that if we don't have the interest in doing what it is that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the second thing that you brought about was hustling. But then that can also be termed as burnout by some people because you're constantly working. So how do you strike this balance between working for what it is that you're truly passionate about, but also not losing out your creativity and your passion for a problem and not burning out?
Coffee, lots of coffee.
It's like Malware, don't need coffee, it's like that.
I mean, it's a good question, right? Because I mean, especially now, there is so much more talk of burnout, right? I don't know the answer, right? Because I think that if you, this is a really terrible reference I'm going to make. Arnold Schwarzenegger gave a talk once, and you can hear this talk. And in the talk, he said that to succeed, you don't want to have plan B, right? You should have
Ah.
no safety net. So I think that if you focus on, am I going to burn out? How am I not going to burn out? You've already lost the game, right? So I think that the only way to do it, if you're going to start from scratch, if someone gives you $100 million, cool, hey, have at it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to start with not a lot and try and make it work, you just have to say, you know what, I'm just going to do what I have to do. And when you find, I found that as I've got older, that you do get tired a little bit more. So I think last month was the first time in 12 years I took a day off and I didn't go near technology.
Whoa.
Um,
That's a lot of work to put in, but that also shows the dedication that you have towards making sure that your company is successful and you come across.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you have to be
Yes.
slightly, something about that. But I think you can do it. I think you have to judge yourself, right? So if you're going for 3 weeks and then you need to stop for a day, then do that, right?
Yeah,
Don't base what you do off of anyone else, right?
That makes sense,
right,
because
that's-
everybody's mileage varies.
Right.
Yeah.
You can be driven to this point of just destruction if you're not careful, right? And I've got the points where I've really kind of been like, I just got to stop. I just can't stare at a screen anymore.
But I think that takes self-awareness, which
Right.
takes time to develop and cultivate.
Yeah, it took about 11 years to develop that, actually. So.
Yeah, so I think that will be a good takeaway, right? You need to have that self-awareness to know when you really have to take a break and step back, and when you really have to push through, and what critical points you have to push through in order to truly come out on the positive side of things.
But just don't ever start fixating on when is that
Yeah.
break, right? Just say I'll get to that break when I get there, but otherwise you just won't win.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. You and your company, you do a lot of red teaming. You are very hands-on, very technical. I want to hear your perspective on a top chatter in the red teaming or the offensive security space, which is, are open source tools good for offensive security and for defensive security, or are we handing over malicious things to our adversaries?
Sure. I think the answer is they are a good thing. I think that the unfortunate truth, and you can see I'm still from North London because I can't say THs properly, truth. The truth is the bad guys have all these tools, right? I mean that's the thing. Like there's a lot of time that we spend worrying about, well, we've deployed this tool. Someone else might go and get my tool as well, and they'll use it for bad things. Anything that we've probably thought to do, they've probably thought to do, right?
Okay.
Because there's a simple, and this is a conversation that I've gone into lots of times, right?
Sure.
Simple reason is the majority of bad actors are motivated by, profit or nation state motivations, right?
Yes.
Okay. The majority of good actors are motivated by, how do I save my organization money?
Business continuity also.
Right?
Yeah.
Or they're doing it for some sort of, passionate personal reason, right? The advantage in that game is all with the bad actors, right? Because the quicker they can find ways to do things that are malicious, the quicker they can try and make a buck. So I think that we probably should not worry about what we put into the open source space. I think that the more tools that we can give to practitioners of all skill sets, right? Security is so popular right now, and there are so many people coming in who aren't experienced. We have to make sure they know how to use these tools, right? Don't give someone Cobalt Strike who just read a book and suddenly decides they're a pen tester. But we have no choice, right? We are in this endless arms race, and as the good team, right, we are somewhat handicapped by the fact that everyone on our side that we work for is trying to reduce costs. They don't want to increase costs. So the profit motivation of your average organization is to lower costs, right? So I don't want to spend too much on security. The profit motivation of the bad actor is to break you, to steal their stuff. I once gave a talk where it was like the business of the people who are trying to bleep you is to bleep you, right? And bleep stands for that, right? And that's just it. So I think that it's inevitable that it's going to happen. I don't think we should stop. I think that, when I started out, well, once my professional career started, cryptography was still embargoed and all this stuff, right? And it was kind of like, this is silly, right? Because I was in the UK we had to get a munitions license to ship
Yeah.
RSA code over.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, the people we're up against, they don't care. They don't care where I am geographically, right? They know that we have this thing they want, which was money, because I was working for an investment company. They're going to get it. So you won't give me the tools to protect myself. So I think that we have to do it.
Okay, great answer. I think well, what I heard was that it definitely helps give the defenders an advantage, and it kind of sort of moves them in the direction towards level setting the playing field to a great extent. But maybe more thought needs to be put into some guardrails that we can do, that we can put around these open source red team tools.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ever want to try and have a fight with your arm tied behind your back, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that if we can do some quality control around, I mean, there's so many security tools, right? I mean, there's so many forks of every possible tool, right? And that kind of becomes, I could see how lots of people are probably confused, like, which tool do I use for this job, right? I mean, if you take Kali, right? There's, I don't know, there's 1,000 security tools on there, right? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? Now, back in the old days, I should do air quotes there. Back in the old days, you would install Linux, whatever version you were doing. I mean, I started out actually using BSD, so I didn't even use Linux, right? If we want to get into semantics. And then you would come across a problem, and then you would either find a tool that did what you want, or you would make a tool, right? So back in the day, you would go, all right, I want to do reconnaissance of this network to find out what boxes are there and what ports are open, right? You'd go online, hey, I'll use Nmap, right? And then you would download it, you would build it, and so on, right? So you would build this distro based on what you need. Whereas I think we've created this problematic solution where you provide people with everything, and then it just becomes, well, I'll fire this tool, and people never really understand what they're doing. So I think if we were to reel it back a little bit, that would help us.
Okay, so dial down and more quality over quantity.
Kali's cool, but I'm just saying that, like, giving people 1,000 different tools, you know,
Okay.
everything just becomes, I'll run everything at everything, and it's like, you're not really helping the situation here.
Great. I think that's a great pointer for the people who are looking to get into the space and figuring out how to use the tools. Make sure that you know why you're using them and for what purpose you're using them. That's a great pointer.
Yeah, roll your own distro, right?
Yeah.
Take a distro. I mean, take any distro you want, start zero, and say, I want to solve this problem. Okay, what tool does it? Do some research, build it, go. And then do that. It will take you a longer time to get somewhere, but you'll be much better.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for those insights. And I think the last question for you today would be, what would you recommend people who are attending BSidesNYC today or next year, what would you recommend them to definitely check out and definitely do, how to best use their time?
Find all the people from OccamSec and talk to them. There are 6 of them downstairs. I mean, I really think that you have to maximize your time at these things, right? I mean, the B-Sides is a sort of, I mean, firstly, it's really not expensive as security conferences go. I mean, someone was telling me that DEF CON's going to be like $400 or $500 this year, which is, I mean, this is $15, right? You're not going to get a day's training at that amount of money anyway. So start from the principle, as I'm going to this conference, I should maximize the time. Now, going to a whole day of talks gets a bit tiring.
Yes.
Again, that could just be a product of my advanced age.
No, a lot of people find, especially when there are multiple tracks also. Yeah.
So I think, you know, do some research before you get here. Pick the things that are most interesting. If there's a speaker you know who you know is good before, go to that. And then also, I think the other great thing about these is networking, right? Talk to people, right? I mean, there's folk here who run their own companies. There's people here who have been security researchers forever. There are people here who work in tech companies. There's people from everywhere, right? And they're all in one place, and there's no hierarchy, right? So it's not like people who are CEOs are all over there and people who are researchers over there. Like, everyone's mingled.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is, you know, sit down next to someone, hey, what do you do, right? And just go for it, right? I mean, I remember being at RSA years ago, sitting down, and there's some guy next to me with a beard. Hey, who are you? I'm Bruce Schneider. Okay, cool, we can talk, right?
Yeah.
It has to be like that. So I really think that go to the talks that seem interesting, but just as important, like, do the networking piece. Even if it's just one person, just share a business card, share an email address, share something, because then you'll probably have conversations later on that lead
That
somewhere.
leads to something.
Because we're all here for the same thing, right? We're all here to learn how to be better at what we do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's cool, right? No one's
Yeah.
here trying to sell you something, right? As far as I know. Everyone's just here to improve their skill set so they can actually collectively make things better, right? And that's cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us those pointers and for sharing your wisdom with the wider community. It
Thanks
was
very
a
much.
pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Thank you. Nice to you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.